What if one small mistake like a late-night traffic stop could cost you your entire future? In a town where justice is just a word, one woman was framed, arrested, and nearly silenced, until the truth came crashing back. This isn't just a story. It's a reckoning. In this video, you'll witness how a wrongful arrest spirals into a full-blown FBI investigation. Hidden identities, planted evidence, and explosive courtroom revelations. Nothing is what it seems. By the end, you'll see how one woman turned the system inside out, and why this story still matters today. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We bring you powerful stories that challenge corruption, reveal hidden truths, and keep you on the edge of your seat. Now, let's begin. A quiet night, a lonely road, and the kind of silence that makes your instincts tighten. The streets of Fairbridge, Virginia, were still. Streetlights hummed above rows of sleeping homes. Nothing moved. Nothing stirred. But then came the flashing lights, red, blue, sirens slicing through the calm like a blade. For most people, a traffic stop is just a moment, an inconvenience. But for Jade Reynolds, it was something else entirely. She wasn't speeding. She didn't run a light. But that didn't matter because tonight, she was the target. 2 officers, 2 lies, 1 bag of drugs that didn't belong in her trunk, and a set of handcuffs that snapped shut before she could ask a single question. They thought they had her. Another name in a report. Another body behind bars. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that Jade wasn't just some unlucky driver. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't helpless. She was watching, calculating, waiting, because Jade Reynolds was no ordinary woman. She was trained, connected, dangerous. And the mistake they made was thinking she was their victim. In truth, she was their reckoning. This is the story of what happens when the system tries to crush the wrong person and ends up exposing itself in the process. It was just past midnight. The streets of Fairbridge, Virginia were still, painted in faint amber by aging street lamps. The town had long since fallen asleep. No movement. No sound except the gentle hum of an engine moving alone through the quiet. Jade Reynolds sat behind the wheel, alone, focused. Her eyes scanned every intersection like a hawk tracing its prey. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't in a rush. Her hands rested easily on the steering wheel, 10 and 2, just like they teach you. But her mind never stopped moving. Jade wasn't just another woman heading home after a long day. She was here for a reason, a mission. But to anyone watching, she was just another late-night driver. As she rolled toward a 4-way stop near Maple and Brighton, her gaze flicked toward the sign. She braked, counted to 3, looked both ways. Then she turned left. That's when the lights hit. Red, blue, spinning wildly behind her. A siren followed sharp, sudden, slicing through the silence like a blade across glass. Jade didn't panic. She didn't even blink. She calmly guided the car to the side of the road, turned off the engine, and exhaled once. Controlled. Intentional. She reached for the glove box. License. Registration. Everything in place. Every move practiced slow, visible, deliberate. A cruiser door slammed shut. Footsteps. 2 sets. Officer Mitchell approached first. Tall. Smug. Flashlight in hand. The beam landed directly on Jade's face. "Evening, ma'am. You in a hurry tonight?" Jade met his eyes. Steady. Neutral, No officer, just heading home. He tilted his head, flashlight dancing across her dashboard. "You ran that stop sign back there," he said, already deciding the verdict. "You didn't even slow down." Jade raised an eyebrow, but kept her tone even. "I came to a full stop." "Counted to 3, he smirked. "Well, it didn't look that way to us." Behind her, Officer Travis circled toward the rear of the SUV. He was shorter, stockier, voice louder than it needed to be. "Mitchell, yo, check this out," he called. Jade's eyes shifted to her rearview mirror. Mitchell's smile thinned. "Do me a favor. Step out of the car." Jade paused. "Just half a breath. Is there a reason, officer?" "Step out of the vehicle. Now." His tone shifted. "No more fake politeness." She opened the door slowly. Her boots touched the pavement. Her eyes never left his. Travis lifted the trunk before she could speak. A beat passed, then another. "What do we have here?" Travis said, pulling up a small black bag, unzipped just enough to reveal white powder inside. Mitchell looked at Jade. "Care to explain that?" She stared at the bag. It hadn't been there before. She was sure of it. But her face remained unreadable. "I've never seen it before," she said. "That's not how this works," Mitchell replied, already pulling out cuffs. The metal snapped cold around her wrists. "You're under arrest for possession with intent to distribute." As Travis read off a list of charges like he was reciting a grocery list, Jade stayed still. Her breathing didn't change. Her pulse didn't rise. She just listened and remembered. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering, cold. The inside of the Fairbridge Police Department looked like something out of another era. Yellowing walls, scuffed linoleum floors, old coffee brewing in the corner, and a handful of night shift officers who looked more bored than busy. Jade Reynolds stood at the booking counter, hands still cuffed, posture perfectly straight. Officer Mitchell handed over her license, an arrest report to the clerk. Officer Travis, meanwhile, leaned back in a chair, laughing with another cop like this was a casual Friday night. "Another one for the books," Travis said, tossing the bag onto the counter like it was a prop in some game. Caught her red-handed. "These people never learn." Jade said nothing. She scanned the room quietly. 2 working security cameras. One just above the main door. The other tilted, barely functional. 1 exit. 2 back offices. A hallway leading to holding cells. She noticed everything, every routine. Every officer's name badge. Every blind spot. The desk sergeant motioned for her to place her fingers on the scanner. She complied. No resistance. "Name?" he asked. "Jade Reynolds." "Occupation?" A pause. The faintest pause. "Consultant." He nodded. Kept typing. But the hesitation had been long enough for Jade to notice the flicker of doubt in his eyes. She filed it away. Meanwhile, Mitchell and Travis continued their victory lap. "She thought she was slick," Mitchell said. "Didn't even blink when we popped the trunk." "Yeah, she'll blink when the judge sees that powder," Travis added, snorting. Jade sat in a metal chair in the holding cell now. Her cuffs had been removed, but she hadn't moved from her position, straight back. Eyes forward. Completely still. 1 officer passed by, barely glancing in. Another sat behind the desk, sipping stale coffee, staring blankly at the monitor showing her cell. Jade leaned back slightly, just enough to stretch, and in that motion, her jacket shifted. Inside the hem hidden beneath reinforced lining was something far more powerful than any words she could speak right now. A beacon. A signal. A trigger. But she wouldn't press it yet. No, first, she needed to observe, The game had started, and she always let her opponents move first. Officer Nate Collins sat at his desk, fingers tapping nervously against the keyboard. He was new here, barely 3 months on the force. Still fresh out of the academy. Still eager to do the right thing, but something about tonight didn't feel right. He glanced at the booking screen again. Name, Jade Reynolds. Charge, possession with intent. Status, holding. The report, written by Officers Mitchell and Travis, was airtight. Too airtight. Nate scrolled down. Everything followed protocol on the surface, but the details felt rehearsed, mechanical, like a scene played out too many times. Failure to stop at a marked intersection. Driver exhibited nervous behavior. Consented to a vehicle search. Controlled substances recovered in trunk. That last part stuck with him. Nate had watched the whole thing from the monitor at the front desk. Jade hadn't looked nervous. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't twitched, stammered, or even flinched. She had been calm. Measured. Too calm. Most people caught with drugs in their car either panic or pretend they didn't know. She had done neither. And something else. He didn't remember seeing Travis ask for consent to search the vehicle. He stared at the time-stamped footage again. No verbal request. No nod. No agreement. The search had already started by the time Mitchell said anything. That wasn't just sloppy. That was wrong. He leaned back in his chair, eyes flicking toward the holding cell monitor. Jade sat perfectly still, hands resting on her lap. Her posture hadn't changed in over an hour. No pacing. No yelling. No crying. Just stillness. As if she was waiting for something, driven by instinct more than logic. Nate stood up. Slowly. He made his way down the hallway to the holding cells. The metal door buzzed open. He stepped through. Jade looked up, her eyes sharp even in the dim fluorescent light. He hesitated at the bars, unsure of what to say. He cleared his throat. You doing okay in there? Jade tilted her head slightly. Then she smiled. Just a little. You're the first person to ask that. Nate rubbed the back of his neck, awkward. Just. Routine check. She looked at him closely, like she was reading something behind his eyes. You're not like the others, she said. He frowned. What do you mean? You noticed, she said softly. You don't believe their story. Nate's mouth opened, then closed again. Look, I'm just a rookie. I don't. You already know something's off, she said, cutting him off gently. You just don't want to admit it. He swallowed hard. I'm just doing my job. No, Jade replied. Calm. Quiet. Precise. You're deciding what kind of officer you want to be. Nate stared at her for a long moment, then turned and walked away, but her words followed him down the hall. Back in her cell, Jade Reynolds closed her eyes. She wasn't tired. She never truly slept during missions. Sleep made you soft, vulnerable, slow to react, but she didn't need rest. She needed timing. The walls around her were old, thin, the cell bars slightly rusted. The overhead light buzzed with a low electric hum. And from outside the door, faint voices drifted in, officers talking, laughing, not realizing they were about to walk into a storm. Jade exhaled slowly, then reached down, slipping her fingers along the inside hem of her jacket. Sewn into the lining, almost invisible, was a SIA issue micro beacon. One press. No sound. No flash. But enough to light up a secure satellite system half a continent away. Click, the signal was sent, a whisper into the dark. Cut 2. A plain, windowless operations center Tucked beneath a federal building in Alexandria, Virginia, a tech analyst blinked at her screen. A small icon began pulsing in the top corner. She leaned forward, signal confirmed. Across the room, a man in a dark suit stepped into view. Director Rowan Wells, graying temples. Stern eyes. Calm under pressure, he approached the terminal, arms crossed. Source? Operative Reynolds. Solo asset. Status read. Wells didn't hesitate. Prep the team. We go in quiet. No disruption. No noise, the analysts nodded. Agents began moving with silent precision, grabbing communits, loading evidence kits, syncing body cams. Wells turned to his second-in-command. Fairbridge PD just made the biggest mistake of their careers. Let's clean it up. Back in her cell, Jade opened her eyes. The weight of the cuffs was gone. The cell was still locked. But she wasn't trapped, because now they were coming, not to rescue her, but to bring the truth with them. Officer Nate Collins stared at his monitor. The glow from the screen bathed his face in pale blue, the only light in the room aside from the flickering overhead bulb. The station was quiet now, too quiet. Mitchell and Travis had gone to the break room, mugs of burnt coffee in hand, laughing like they just told the punchline to a private joke. But Nate's smile had long since faded. He pulled up the arrest record for Jade Reynolds again. He'd read it 10 times already. Something about it refused to settle in his gut. Too clean. Too convenient. Too perfect. He opened the internal case database and began digging. One case. Then another. Then 5 more, all signed by Mitchell. Many by Travis, too. The charges were always the same. Minor traffic stop. Nervous driver. Consent to search. Drugs discovered. Arrest made. Case closed. The suspects, mostly people of color. Mostly first-time offenders. And almost all of them pled guilty before trial. Nate leaned back in his chair, a cold wave crawling up his spine. It was a pattern. Not a coincidence. A system. He looked up at the holding cell monitor. Jade hadn't moved. Still sitting, still calm. But now, it wasn't just her composure that unsettled him. It was the realization that maybe, just maybe, she knew exactly how this was going to go. Down the hall, Mitchell and Travis sat with their feet propped up, laughing into their coffee cups. Girl didn't say a word the whole time, Travis said. Not even a tear. That's a first. Probably thought she was gonna charm her way out of it, Mitchell chuckled. Like that ever works. They didn't notice the subtle shift in the station's atmosphere. Didn't feel the air tighten. Didn't see Nate, still seated, still staring, his jaw clenched. The cracks were forming. The illusion of control was beginning to bend, and far beyond the walls of this small town station, help was already on the way. Outside, the early morning sky was a shade of slate gray. Clouds hung heavy. The air smelled like rain. Then, the SUV arrived, black, unmarked. Engine quiet. It rolled to a slow stop just outside the main entrance of the Fairbridge Police Department. The driver's door opened first, then the others. 3 figures stepped out, dark suits. Crisp TIs. No smiles. They moved with the kind of stillness that made people nervous, deliberate, calm, but unshakably certain. At the front desk, Officer Daniels blinked as the lead man approached. Can I help you? The man flashed a badge without breaking stride. Director Rowan Wells. FBI. We're conducting a federal inquiry into internal misconduct and corruption. We'll need access to your case files, surveillance systems, and holding areas. Immediately, Daniels opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. Behind him, one of the younger officers stood up. Uncertain, whispers spread. No one knew what was happening. No warning. No announcement. Just agents, arriving like thunder right before the lightning hits. Inside the operations room, Wells's team moved fast, laptops connected, drives decrypted. Security footage loaded. One agent pulled up arrest logs, names, timestamps, charges, outcomes. Another cross-checked surveillance camera feeds from the past 3 months. And the patterns? They jumped off the screen. Same 2 officers, one analyst muttered. Same script every time. No body cam footage, another added. Convenient. Footage from the holding area confirms the suspect never gave verbal consent to a search. Wells nodded once, arms crossed. Document everything. Isolate the relevant cases. We move to containment when I give the word. Back in the main office, Travis walked out of the break room with half a donut in his mouth. He stopped mid-bite when he saw the suits. Mitchell followed a second later. What the hell? Their smiles faded. Their swagger turned to confusion, and then to something colder. Fear. They exchanged a glance. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. In the holding cell, Jade Reynolds looked up at the small security camera mounted in the corner. She smiled. Just barely. They were here. She didn't need to see them to know. She felt the shift, the energy in the walls. The storm that had been building all night had finally arrived. Director Wells stood in the center of the station, holding a printed file in one hand and a tablet in the other. Bring in the 2 arresting officers, he said, calm as ever. 2 agents moved forward like shadows. As they approached, Mitchell stepped back. What's going on? We're going to ask you a few questions, Wells replied. You'll want to be honest. Travis paled. The agents flanked them. Not rushed. Not aggressive. Just certain. The tide had turned. At the front desk. Nate watched it all unfold. His heart raced. His mouth went dry, but in his chest, a weight lifted. Finally, someone was listening. Officer Nate Collins stood at his locker, staring down at his own reflection in the scratched metal door. His stomach churned. His pulse wouldn't slow down, but he couldn't ignore it anymore. He turned the corner and spotted Officer Mitchell walking down the hallway, clipboard in hand, looking as smug as ever. Nate stepped directly into his path. That bag. It wasn't in the trunk when you stopped her, was it? Mitchell froze. For a second, there was silence. Cold. Cutting. Then he chuckled low, dismissive. You sure you want to be asking that, rookie? Nate didn't flinch. I watched the footage. You didn't ask for consent. She never agreed to a search. And the timing. It doesn't add up. Mitchell's face changed. The smirk dropped. His voice lowered. You don't know what you're talking about. And if you want to keep your job, you'll keep your mouth shut. But Nate didn't back down. He just looked Mitchell in the eye and walked away. Back at his desk, Nate compiled everything. Security footage. Arrest reports. Case logs. Patterns. The surveillance feed from that night. The one that showed Mitchell and Travis at the trunk before anything was said to Jade. He packaged it all into a compressed file. No sender. No ID. Just a simple subject line. For Director Wells' urgent evidence. He sent it. Then deleted the trace. 30 minutes later, inside the FBI's temporary command center, Director Wells opened the encrypted file. He watched the footage in silence, frame by frame. Timestamp by timestamp, there it was plain as day. Mitchell holding the black duffel, opening the trunk, placing it inside. All before the stop was fully initiated. Wells turned to his lead tech. We've got it. Move now. Mitchell and Travis sat across from each other in the break room. The coffee had gone cold. The laughter had died out. Outside the glass door, agents were moving with purpose. Quiet. Precise. Then the knock came, the door opened, and Director Wells entered, flanked by two agents in dark suits. "Officers Mitchell and Travis," he said plainly. "We need to speak with you." Mitchell stood slowly, trying to play it cool. About what? Wells didn't blink. About the evidence. The arrest. And your history. Travis shifted uncomfortably. The agents moved in. No handcuffs yet. Not yet. They were led to separate interrogation rooms, and that's when the real unraveling began. Room 1, Mitchell. He sat with arms crossed, jaw tight. Wells placed a tablet on the table and tapped the screen. The video played in silence. Mitchell. At the trunk. Bag in hand. Time-stamped. Undeniable. Then came the audio. Muffled. But clear enough. Nobody's gonna question it. We drop it in, book her, and it's done. Mitchell's face drained of color. That's edited, he said quickly. You can't prove. Wells interrupted. We can. And we have witnesses. Mitchell leaned back, shoulders rising in slow defense. He was cornered. And he knew it. Room B. Travis. Sweating. Pacing. He cracked first. It wasn't my idea, he said. I didn't plant it, Mitchell did. I just followed his lead. But you went along with it, the agent replied. Travis sat down, defeated. Yeah. I did. Back in the squad room, the energy had shifted. The other officers stared as the two men were led out, hands cuffed behind their backs. Mitchell's head was down. Travis looked pale. The hallways had never felt so quiet. Some officers whispered. Others just watched in stunned silence. In the holding cell, Jade Reynolds heard the buzz of the magnetic lock. The door opened slowly. An agent stepped in, nodding once. You're free to go. Ma'am, she rose without a word. No celebration. No vindication. Just purpose. As she stepped out of the cell, Nate was waiting near the desk. Their eyes met. He looked like he wanted to say something. Maybe sorry. Maybe thank you. But Jade beat him to it. You did the right thing, she said, voice low. That's how change starts. Then she walked past him, calm and silent as ever. Outside, the sun had risen. The black SUV was waiting. Jade climbed into the back seat. Director Wells was already inside. He handed her a closed folder. You did good work. She didn't open it, just stared out the window as the town of Fairbridge disappeared behind her. They thought they were in control, she said quietly. They were wrong. The ripple was immediate. And it was loud. By noon the next day, Fairbridge Police Department was swarming not with suspects, but with investigators. Badges from the FBI. Badges from Internal Affairs. Even the state's Attorney General sent 2 observers to sit in on interviews. What started as one fabricated arrest had cracked the seal on something much bigger. Dozens of past cases were reopened. Old convictions were scrutinized. Files vanished from the archives. And then suddenly reappeared under federal lock. The headlines hit fast. Every local station ran with the same tone. Local cops caught in corruption ring. Evidence planted in dozens of arrests. Investigation ongoing. FBI takedown sparks statewide review. The town was stunned. Parents who once told their kids to trust the badge now asked hard questions. City council meetings overflowed. A police reform bill ignored for 3 years was suddenly rushed back onto the agenda. Inside the department, the tension boiled over. Some officers backed Officer Nate Collins, calling him a hero. Others? They called him a traitor. Lockers were slammed. Words were exchanged. At one point, someone even carved snitch into Nate's desk, but Nate didn't back down. He showed up every day. He kept his reports clean. his head high, and his silence steady because he knew the people who mattered were watching. And the change he helped start wasn't finished yet. As for Jade Reynolds, she vanished. No press statement, no interviews, no dramatic walkout, just gone. Her name was quietly redacted from every report. Her face never appeared on the news. But those who paid attention, those who understood, knew she had been the one to strike the match, and the fire she started was still burning a few days later. A quiet park, maple trees, a bench, a chill in the air. Jade Reynolds sat alone, a paper coffee cup cradled between her hands. Her eyes watched a group of kids chasing a soccer ball across the lawn. She smiled faintly, though not at the game. She was thinking, always thinking. A familiar voice spoke behind her. You could have handled it differently. She didn't need to turn. Director Rowan Wells slid onto the bench beside her, suit jacket unbuttoned, eyes scanning the horizon. But then, he added, you wouldn't have made it so memorable. Jade sipped her coffee. They thought they were in control, she said. Turns out, they were just part of the mission, Wells chuckled, then handed her a small phone. Secure. Silent. A green light blinked at the top. New target. New town. She didn't ask questions. She never did. She stood, tossed the cup into a nearby bin, and started walking. The phone buzzed once in her hand. Fade to black. Mission complete.